Life can be a roller coaster, so you need your ride or dies. Who is in your dream team? Hello and welcome back to another wonderful episode of Women Talk, where we discuss the real and the raw with very interesting guests. And today we have with us two wonderful guests who will be talking about what every woman needs, has probably had, has maybe lost some along the way. But what we need is a dream team to go through the pitfalls as well as to celebrate with us the celebrations and our successes in life. Today, joining us on the show are Tonton as well as Nurlida Azmi. Chantal is a leadership coach as well as certified behavioral consultant. And Nurlida is a chapter advisory founder. And we're excited to talk about your take, especially with your experience in the workplace and outside, about how you found your dream team and everything related to that. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so, you know, women were taught to pretty much be quite independent, right? And we juggle lots of hats. That's what we've established, that women tend to do and are expected to do quite seamlessly. But I think the silent unsung heroes and the ones that we couldn't live without are our besties or the dream team. Ideally, it is for us to thrive in a community. I think that's how, even from back in the day, that's how things were meant to be. But in modern day society, we tend to be carrying a lot of those burdens alone. So what I'd like to ask each of you is about your dream team. What does that mean to you? Who are the people who really show up for you when you're struggling, and who are the people that you turn to for support? Chantal,
yeah. So maybe for me, it's really much about family. Being a mother, daughter, just playing a lot of roles, wife and all, is really about much family. Having that, it's a lot of friends. That's personal life. But in truth, it's a lot of the workplace as well. Sometimes there's mentors, there's colleagues, there's ex-colleagues, and also sometimes there's clients as well. And along the way, there's always a lot of people that are just there for that moment, just supporting us at that time. So I think it's a lot, and pets are also included as well.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I mean, who could do without them? Yeah. Nurlida, what about for you, or Oli, if I may call you
yes,
that? Yes,
please. I have two grown-up daughters, so they're always there, like my besties, and always
so
there.
nice.
You know, it's like, but a lot of it also comes from those friends that turn up with the salsa and corn chips when you're really down. Do you know what I mean? But also somebody who comes about and says to you, "Hey, I've got broad shoulders, cry, and you're a new adventure. Can I be strong for you?"
Wow.
So there are pockets of people that just support you, and those I don't think I could do without them today, you know?
Let's talk about that. Yeah, I think you both touched on something really interesting. You know, we talk about this dream team as if they've always been there. You think of Sex and the City or, you know, SATC, and they all have different characters. They all have something different opinions to lend, you know? But in actual fact, you're quite right in the sense that it's actually for a season, a reason, or a lifetime.
To be honest, actually, even for myself, when I had my daughter and had postpartum and stuff like that, sometimes it's a bit hard to talk to family. So I would really say to people is like, you need to find someone who can actually help you solve the problem. And that could be a therapist, or that could be a coach or a mentor or somebody else, but it's really much to help you to solve the problems, and who can have the competency to be able to help you towards that. So I would say that that's the one. And number two, if let's say for some times when we have really problems, but we kind of know the answer, but we just want to let it out.
Yeah.
Then
sounding board.
Just a sound, so we need to tell, hey, whoever that is, I just want to do a sounding board. Just don't give me a solution. I just need to let it out, right? Yeah.
Bless the male figures in our life, actually, who actually struggle to understand that sometimes all women need is a bit more of a sounding board. Like, we've actually got the solution there. We just need to talk it out. It's quite interesting. Women, I think my lady friends are much better at that. Nurlida, and okay, on this front as well, it was so amazing that you even offered something, you know, someone who would say, I've got broad shoulders and I've got the capacity and I've got the bandwidth here.
You know, it's very interesting. And when I think about this, you visualize someone who was actually started out as my client in my banking days. And then she attended my wedding, I attended her wedding, and then you become friends. And I think one of the things that's happened over time is that there is a blurring between colleagues, friends, but always to remember the boundaries that you have. When she's a client or we need to respect the boundaries. So when she comes out and you're at a major transition, and like what Chantal was saying is that the competency that comes, the network that she carries, the sponsorship that she can have, it's so empowering when somebody says, I've got broad shoulders. So firstly, you can even be so stupid, I wouldn't judge you, but I would actually take you to a journey that will maximize yourself and what you want to be.
Wow.
I thought it was like, wow, that is true friendship and a sponsorship of women to succeed. And I don't mean this as like, you know, male-female thing, but it's like we just have different levers that need to be sort of played about to bring about the best of yourself.
Wow, that is inspiring. Okay, we're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive right back into that. Stay tuned on Women Talk. Women Talk with me, Anita Woo, as well as our two wonderful guests, Nolita Azmi and Chantal Wee. And we're talking about our dream team. As women, the unsung heroes, you may not see them all the time on your social media posts, but they're the ones that you call up. They're the ones that show up for you, whether you're in your pajamas or in your power suit. They're the ones who are there. And I love that we started on this conversation about how organically this has become, and you know, not everyone's lucky enough to have a, you know, SATC team that's there with you for like 20, 30 years. Sometimes that inner circle is pruned, and sometimes the inner circle just organically evolves.
To me, actually, to be honest, it's really much about having the same alignment, having the same principles in life, basically, and having trust with each other. Maybe it could be different in many ways, but having a trust with each other, I think that's, to me, how I look at the inner circle as well.
Yeah. And for you, Nolita, you know, as you said, you know, you've had so many different types of characters, and some have turned out to be some of your closest allies and supporters.
Yes.
How do you decide who? I mean, our time is limited, so how do you decide how much time you invest in those relationships, and who gets that seat in your board of directors of Inner Circle?
Inner Circle, the besties, eh? Do you know, I find mutual self-respect. Mutual respect is so important, because I think that will underlie a lot of behaviors and traits. I respect your opinion, I can be different, I can call you out, but underlining there's a respect, and sometimes it could be just out of friendship, out of love. And the other thing is, I do believe that there should be a reciprocity,
yeah.
In the sense that it is sometimes quite difficult to take as it is to give.
Yeah.
Because you feel so much validation in giving. But actually you must put yourself on the other side. So the circle that I have, I believe that I'd love to think that they love to get from me as I love to get from them. So therefore it's like, it's not about equations, but it's about like, hey, let's rise together, or sometimes fall together.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. I mean, it's one of those things, knowing that even if this was a bad call, someone's got your back. And that just always helps. Or even not a bad call, just things that you have self-doubts in. That's what I find, you know, especially in that aspect. When you have self-doubts, it always helps when those people show up for you and say, we see you in a different way.
Yeah. Or just smack you at
get on with it. No one's endorsing physical violence here.
No, it's not bad, yeah.
But, okay, Chantal, can you talk to me a little bit about how maybe vulnerability has been quite important, and perhaps share about how you've been able to adjust or measure things? You know, sometimes we invest a lot. You see, initially you think something is reciprocal, and then over time, you know, some true colours reveal themselves. How do you adjust that, or how do you have those tough conversations?
So I'm hearing from you is really much about having a tough conversation with somebody else, you're saying?
Yeah, if need be. You know, I mean, when you talk about true friendships, like Nolita was talking about, sometimes, as you said, you know, you have to have the enough love and respect and trust in each other as well to say, hey, I didn't actually quite agree with how that went the other day, or I have a slightly different opinion here, or I'm worried. Yeah. How would you go about that?
To me, I would always come in from a point of being really much objective. It's not about, I try not to use the word you, like, you know, you made me that, or stuff like that. It's more like how I felt. I would really use it, for example, what are the actions they did, and it leads on to the impact to me, and what I wish that it would be better with.
That's the key principles behind non-violent communication.
Yes.
Yeah, which I would actually advise lots of people to read if you haven't. It's recommended reading, non-violent communication, great for friendships, relationships,
for everything.
Yeah, and those are the three exact principles.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
And that would be, I mean, it will make it much easier.
Yeah, and what about for you, Nolita, on that front? How have you approached certain things in terms of, calling things out or saying, I need a little bit more reciprocity in this front, or saying, I didn't agree with that, How do you usually go about, in a sense, enforcing those boundaries for yourself?
I think we owe the people closest to us that level of honesty. And if you don't have it, then it's really not the inner circle. It's really the next level. And you and them should realize that. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think we should respect that sometimes the circle evolve out.
Yes.
And then it's orbiting on its own. And that's fine. And I think what's key for me is that you don't hold bitterness.
Yes.
Because there is a time and a season for everything. Maybe at that time you and me then needed a certain closeness. But what's important is that once it goes into a different concentric level, is to respect the privacy and the discretion. Because when you're very close to somebody, you open up your heart, your vulnerability goes up. So it speaks to you as much as to them if they don't value that. And I think is one of the tests of this, besties.
Yes. I mean, it's one of those things as well where I think we want to assume the best.
Yes.
Right? And when things don't quite work out, I think it's also incumbent on us to adjust ourselves appropriately.
I have a friend, a colleague turned friend, who went into a dark space. And a lot of the behavior would hurt me, and I felt betrayed. But then you always remember, everybody has a story. Everybody has a perspective. It's up to you whether you want to give that person the opportunity to explain, sometimes redeem themselves as they should, but whether you care enough. So I think for me that happened, and the person has come back to be a friend, and I think makes friendship stronger. Yeah, I think that's a little bit of courageous friendship. Take it to the test, and then it comes back.
Absolutely. But I think this is something that, in terms of our customs and in terms of our culture, perhaps we find that a little bit difficult to bridge.
Yeah.
And it's so kudos, and I'm so happy that you have found a more reinforced, honest friendship.
You lose some.
Look at the draw. And they're all data points. They're all data points. That worked, that didn't work.
Let's try again.
More wonderful tips about picking your dream team, maintaining your dream team, and growing your dream team if need be. Stay tuned on Women Talk. And welcome back to Women Talk. We're on the show talking about the dream team, the people who are of your greatest support, who are there with you, ride or die, your dream team, with Chantal Wee as well as Nolita or Orly Azmi. And we've talked about a personal front and how we've curated our personal dream team, who has that space in your inner circle. Let's talk about something slightly more interesting, which is the dream team at work. And in organizational spaces. So say, for example, someone who is new to a company. Chantal, how would you advise, kind of like cues and signs as to, first of all, how you yourself can behave in a certain way to also encourage friends? How do you make friends who are solid friends that perhaps you may carry through outside of the job?
I would think that, I'm not sure if you heard it before, it's called emotional bank. It's kind of like an ATM where you kind of put things that you do for that person in a relationship, and then when you need some help from them, you kind of like withdraw things out.
Right.
Yeah, so that's at a workplace and even for personal life as well. It's really much about how much you put in to that relationship. And then when you do need help or you need the support, that's when they're willing to help you, especially at work.
Yes.
So that's what I would kind of advise a newbie or people who are young to look at a relationship bank. So you can't expect somebody to just help you if you didn't help that person at all. Yeah, so I would say that's one tip I would probably give.
Start building deposits.
Yes.
Start putting deposits.
Putting deposits.
Don't wait for
because there's nothing there, right? You deposit a lot more.
This is a great concept. Thank you. And Nolita, what about you? Through all your different organizations and things, how have you seen kind of the dream team shape up or curate at work?
Do you know, the dream team really comes about, generally at work, comes first from a selection of competencies. And then people nowadays, the younger generation, join because the culture is right. The purpose suits them.
Yes.
So when you talk about the dream team and besties, it's really important that, you know, so a lot of conversations happen. So you've got a circle at work. I think as a leader, you should be making or providing opportunities for them to have conversations. And sometimes you're not part of that dream team. Remember, there are various dream teams in the workplace.
Yes.
And if you're at the next level, how do you connect all these different dream teams to work for the organization? And I think that's where you bring a little bit of science to the art of bringing people that, the word now is like collaboration, right?
Yes.
And as the demographics become Gen Z and millennials, this is imperative.
How is that? Could you expand a little bit more on that?
Because I think conversations are very important at work, and you know the younger generations are very blunt. They speak, and if you have even a Gen X who's like saying why they're so rude, actually is not. I think building the bridges, allowing opportunity for people to prosper, will enable people to have dream teams. They say now is you're not supposed to use the word family in the workplace because you need to have work-life separation.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But the friendships happen, and the friendships nowadays, if the workplace only has 2 to 3 year tenure, you want to build dream teams that connect outside, because the ecosystem now is bigger than the internal world in any organization. That's my perspective I'm seeing.
That is powerful for a much more coherent team in general, or teams
It's like
working
that's
well together.
And I think that's like the besties concept. And then when you need somebody, they say, oh, you know, when you have a good friend, you're like, okay, help me this. It's the same thing at work. Hey, help me this, even though you're no longer in the same organization.
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah. As you rise up the ranks at work, sometimes it's a little bit tricky because it's also kind of like, hey, there's only one spot that's available and I'm vying for that. How would you advise people navigating this in terms of like boundaries at work as well?
To be honest, I mean, if the person goes up, I mean, is the person that is more competent, I would say, is the one that actually goes up, right? The other part, if you are the one at on top, you probably want to help your friend at work to kind of like also rise up in the competency. I mean, there's also a lot of roles and spot. It doesn't mean that you're just into one department or things. You can always move to others or outside of the other company, right? You know, it doesn't mean that it's just on that. So to me, I think that doesn't mean that the door closes, but if you're a genuine friend, you want to help that person to grow as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And Nurlida, what about you?
I think the boundaries come when you make sure that you don't divulge things that you should not.
Yes.
I think like all things, we have to be intentional, particularly at work.
What are your thoughts actually about, you know, being social media friends with your colleagues?
I have no problem.
Yeah.
But I must qualify. There are people who sort of track and say, why is the boss friends with the subordinates? I actually had somebody who was working for me when I first went to the organization and said, it's the first time the boss ever asked me to connect.
Right.
And I'm like, oh wow. And I'm the boomer, you're the Gen X.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean?
Wow, yeah.
So I thought it was, you know, it can present quite a provocative conversation, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, I would say that it's only thing that when you do connect, it's just that you don't have to put everything. Let's say you're upset about that colleague, you don't put out that colleague's like name and all. So that's something that you kind of got to have that little filter before you post everything and anything out.
Yes. I think that's quite mindful because it could also breed unnecessary drama.
Exactly.
Yes.
And Anita, there's another thing that comes out is that, you know, I have my daughter telling a young colleague, I mean, do not overshare. Because in the interest of transparency, and you want to be relatable, you share context out of good intentions.
Yes.
But you've got to be a little bit cautious because as much as you want to see the good of everybody, sometimes it could be used against you. Do you have and then when you go to social media, do you have the courage to take the haters as much as the those that love you, right?
No, absolutely, Any last words as to advice, you know, advice into curating your dream team?
I think for me, it's not even creating a dream team, but we as women need to remember that we ourselves are also in a dream team. So we need to also kind of have our time to refill ourselves and to just have some space for ourselves as well.
That is so important. To actually, first of all, fill your own cup.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Chantal. It's very valuable. That's a good reminder.
For me, I find dream teams evolve over time, and therefore sometimes you make new connections in a different phase of your life.
Yeah.
And therefore it is always important to invest back. It's like you're talking about put some more, build the bank, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think dream teams evolve. And sometimes it's okay to shed and have new ones.
Yes.
But dream teams, I think today, particularly in the connected world, it's so powerful for your personal well-being and your connectedness.
No, absolutely. I think for those of you who are even wondering or questioning if you have a dream team, don't doubt it. Sometimes they are the ones who've been there all along, and sometimes it takes giving a little bit more in order to receive a bit more as well. So on that note, thank you so much for being on the show with us, Chantal and Orly.
My pleasure.
Really wonderful to have
you.
this candid chat and from sharing from your experience as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So that's it. We don't have to carry everything on our own, whether it's juggling work or family responsibilities. We do have a dream team that we can rely on. And don't be afraid to call if need be, and don't be afraid to have honest, real conversations so that you can really test those friendships and grow them. With that, I'm Anita Woo. Thank you for joining us. Catch us at Women Talk on social media at Women Talk TV3, as well as at TV3 Malaysia. Like, subscribe, and engage with us. Until next time, take care.